In this tutorial, we will be covering the basics of color correction within Avid Media Composer. Now you can apply color correction directly onto a clip in your timeline or onto its own separate track. I'll be placing color correction into a new track by right-clicking and going to New, Video Track, or using the keyboard shortcut, Control or Command Y. Keep in mind anything placed below the color correction video track will have color correction applied to it, meaning if you're using a 1:8:5 mask to establish a specific aspect ratio, the color correction will be adjusting that color on that mask. If you don't want that to happen, place the mask or any of those video tracks above the color correction. As a reminder, when you create a new track within Media Composer, you will need to adjust the source monitor button. This button can come in helpful when completing color correction as you toggle in between your V1, V2 a lot easier. We will be applying color correction to our V2 track, so if your source monitor button is not set to that track, you will not see your color correction adjustments. Before I start any major adjustments within Media Composer, I always make sure I save again by hitting Control or Command S. Then navigate to the right side of your screen to switch to your color workspace. If your workspace does not match this layout, remember you can go to the top toolbar, click Windows, Workspaces, and Restore to Default. This will reset the workspace. If you need a step-by-step guidance here, go ahead and check out that workspace tutorial. In color correction mode, you have access to your HSL color wheels that give you control over the hue of or color of the image. The 3 color wheels give you control over color and shadow, setup, which is the blackest point of the image, midtones, your gamma, which is your midtone or your midpoint of the luminance range, and highlights, which is the gain, the white point of the image. You can start by establishing a base color correction by utilizing Media Composer's auto color correction tools. Auto balance removes the color cast. Auto black adjusts the blacks to the richest level of black and kind of removes that milky look. Auto contrast adjusts for the best possible contrast between black and white. And auto white adjusts the whites to the brightest levels. I'm going to click auto black and you'll see that the color correction effect has been placed onto our V2, our video track 2. If the color correction effect is being placed onto another track, it is most likely due to whatever video track you have selected that is blue in your timeline. Now it has dropped the effect to be the same length, the entire length of my sequence here. So I'm going to go ahead and add edit points to it. At each point where there's a cut, there's an edit happening. I can then adjust the color correction effect for each shot separately. So you'll hold down Command or Control and have that cursor snap to that edit point and then click the Add Edit button. Up here in the 3-panel windows, you can choose what information you would like to help you assist with your color correction. Right now, the leftmost window is set to previous, meaning it is showing the previous clip to help aid in you matching your shots within the same scene. As many shots were filmed at different points in the day, and you will need to add these adjustments to maintain continuity. I can scrub through this and kind of pick a specific moment within the shot if I need to as well. The middle window here is your current clip. It corresponds to where your cursor placement is in your timeline window. And then the right window here is set to your next shot, again, giving you a reference point for maintaining that continuity from shot to shot. You can click the drop down to set these 2 windows, your left and right, as you desire. A commonly used tool here is going to be your Y waveform. This helps you balance the contrast region of an image. The top of the graph is where the whitemost part of the image, and the bottom is the blackmost part of the image. You'll lower the blacks by adjusting the setup controls. You'll bring up the highlights using gain and then adjust the midtones using gamma. You can see that with this image, it's pretty dark, and you'll want to bring up the whites highlights using gain to help balance the image. Another tool commonly used is the vector scope. Vector scope contains markings that indicate the degree of hue and saturation in an image. The further the markings are from the center, the more saturation you have in your image. As I start to adjust the setup, it will adjust the image and the data in the Y waveform. You do not want the blacks below 0, as that means that you're crushing them and the data will not be there for your export. and you do not want the whites to exceed 100, that will overexpose them. You can adjust these controls using the knob here, dragging it. You can also use the arrows by clicking on them, or you can simply type in a number as well. Next, I'm going to adjust the gain and bring up the brightest parts, the whites of the image, to give me kind of the solid base color correction to start with before jumping into my color grading. So if at any point you need to kind of restore these settings to a default, you can hold down Controller Command and then click here. Remember, you can always start color correction with auto buttons here within Avid Media Composer. However, they do need to occur within a specific order to achieve the best auto color correction. So you'd start with auto black, auto white, then do auto balance, then do auto contrast. Then start color grading by adjusting the shadows, the mids, the highlights using the HSL hue offset wheels to bring a color to the forefront to establish that tone or mood for the scene. You can drag the cross within the specific wheel. Most nonlinear editing systems use additive color correction, meaning that if the image is too yellow, you'll want to add the opposite color on the wheel, so blue, to correct the color cast on that image. This additional tool allows you to remove color cast from a specific region by clicking the eyedropper and selecting a specific color to remove. When adjusting using color wheels, the shadows, midtones, and highlights do overlap, so adjusting hue or brightness in your highlights may also affect your midtones, and adjusting your shadows may also affect your midtones as well. Using the dual split button to show the before and after of the image as needed, this helps ensure you're on the right path in your color correction process. Beyond hue offsets, there is also the Control tab. This tab allows you to adjust saturation, brightness, contrast, and if you're completing color correction for a day for night shoot, these tools can come in very handy. The other tab is the Curves tab. You make targeted adjustments on one color component at a time, while color wheels make relative adjustments on red, green, blue, and simultaneously, you can add points on the master red, blue, or green curves to adjust the luma and chroma values. Now you've worked really hard on getting your color correction just right. You can save these parameters as a template. So first, stay organized and create a new bin. Then drag the color correction template icon into the bin and rename it. Then just grab the template from the bin and drag and drop it onto the video track or clip, or better yet, you can select multiple clips with the red arrow, then double click the color correction icon in the bin. If any clips or tracks have other effects on them, go ahead and hold down Option or Alt, then double click. You can double check that the effect is still on the clip by double clicking it to view the nested effects within it. Then you double click it again so that you have the nested track, the 1.1. It will go underneath the main V1 track here, but it still keeps all your effects within that clip. So that sums up this beginner tutorial for Avid Media Composer color correction.